Today I'm going to show you how to make a spaghetti bolognese. Absolutely without doubt, one of Australia's most popular dishes consumed in most households around the country at least once a week. This dish has lots of vegetables, it uses lean mince, and it's going to have heaps of flavour, not too complicated, and it's going to be on the table in no time at all. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to get started on our mince meat. So I want to get a pan onto about a medium to high heat. Now a lot of people, the very first thing they do is they take their mince, they add it into the pan, and they start breaking it apart. What I'm going to ask you to do is not that. I'm going to ask you to put the mince meat into the pan. Once it's hot, a little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, okay? And then we're going to add the mince, but we're not going to do anything to it. We're going to let it sit there, we're going to let it caramelize, and we're going to let it cook through. If we break it apart, it's really cold in the middle of the mince, and that ultimately is going to result in it sweating in the pan, and it's going to basically stew in its own juices, which we don't want. So, add this in. Let it sit there, let it sizzle, let it do its thing for a few minutes. While the mince meat is cooking, all I want you to do is get a pot of water, fill it up, and get it gently simmering. And then, while that's happening, we're going to get stuck into our onion as well as our carrot and our mushrooms. So, what we're going to do, just remove the top here, okay? By removing that top there, it means that we've now got a flat surface for our onion to rest on. Now, using this kind of crab claw motion, we want you to hold the onion tightly and then slice through the root, just like that. The root now holds the onion together. We're now going to slice just once through the middle of the onion like this, parallel to the board, and then we're also going to slice in the opposite direction about kind of 10 or 15 times, depending on the size of your onion, obviously. And then we go like this and we get a lovely little dice. Do this with both halves. I haven't moved our mincemeat at all until right now, and you can see it's got this lovely kind of golden colour. That's absolutely what we want, okay? And now by just turning it over and breaking it apart at this point, it means we're not going to cool the pan down considerably, and it's going to continue to cook through. Just give it a little bit of a toss now, and then we're going to get moving back over onto our carrot. Now, we're going to grate our carrot today. We're grating our carrot because it's going to easily incorporate into our dish, and it's going to cook nice and quickly. It's going to add a very slight crispy texture, very slight, but it's also going to add a lovely sweetness as it continues to cook and soften in our bolognese. Then, to prepare our mushrooms, all we need to do is cut our mushrooms in half and then flat side down, slice them into thin pieces. Now, if you don't want to use mushrooms, zucchini or celery are great options. You can get the kids involved and they can grate them into the sauce as well. You should now have your carrot grated, your mushroom diced up, and your onion all diced as well. We're now going to add this into the wok with all of our minced meat. These guys are going to cook down slowly. The onion's going to caramelise. The mushrooms are going to suck up all the flavour. And the carrot is also going to caramelise and add a lovely little sweetness to the dish, like I said earlier. While we're adding this into the pan, while that's cooking, we're then going to take our fettuccine and add this into a pot of boiling water. That won't take long to come up to the simmer because it already was simmering just before. While that's happening, we're going to get the last ingredient chopped up, which is our garlic. So what I want you to do is I want you to just take your knife, press it down on a garlic clove, just to basically crush it a little bit and then slice through. I think that also just helps chop it up as well because it creates a slightly more kind of flat surface, which is much easier to manage. So do this for all your garlic, and then once chopped up, add it into the pan. Now we're going to add in our garlic, okay? So we've given it a little bit of head start here because our garlic will burn if we add it in too early. We want to make sure our garlic remains nice and fresh. And then we've also got in here some dried thyme as well as some fennel seeds. We're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of each. That is a completely optional step, but we think it adds a lot of flavour. It adds flavour to the dish without having to rely on things like salts and sugars and fats. So our spices are now toasted off. Our vegetables are softened. It looks beautiful. Now we're going to add in some tomato passata. So add that into the dish. Lovely. Give this a bit of a stir. Let everything come together. And then about probably kind of 10-15 seconds, once it starts to come back up to heat, Again, cooking with our ears and our eyes, we can see when it returns to heat, when it's at a gentle simmer. We're then going to add in our secret ingredient, which is a couple of tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. So the balsamic vinegar is going to add a lovely fresh acidity to the dish, but it also is going to add this lovely richness, which you would only achieve by cooking a bolognese down for a number of hours. In this instance, we're going to get it in only a number of minutes. I've strained my pasta. I tasted it just before. It's al dente, which is exactly the way we want it to be, which means it's got a little bit of bite to it, and it's going to continue to cook now when I add it into my pasta sauce as well. Okay, so we've added that in there. Now we just want to bring it together. We know our sauce is ready as well because it's rich and dark and beautiful and fragrant as well. Now we're just trying to make sure that sauce is coated beautifully. A couple of little bits just on top to show everyone that is exactly what the dish is. And now finish with a nice generous garnish of Parmesan cheese. And there it is. Beautiful spaghetti bolognese. It's one of the most commonly cooked dishes in Australia. It's jam-packed full of vegetables. And I tell you what, it's going to have heaps of flavour. The family's going to love it, and it's on the table in only a few minutes. We hope you enjoyed this dish. For more recipes just like this one, check out healthpromotion.com.au.